Oh man, the lighting sucks. But I have my trusty, I think, Samsung HS20 or something. Alright, my babies. Let's make it real today. Actually, I'm gonna turn off the. Huh. What can I do about the light? This makes more sense. Sure, why the fuck not? Hi! Uh, so I'm super pumped for video 100. We're 8 videos away. This is video number 93. But it's fascinating because a lot of stuff crossed my mind during the day that I would want to talk about. And then I kind of like semi-process them and like form something bigger and like kind of like come back and forth with things. So it's becoming like a real thing. But I'm gonna start this video with something more intense. Yeah, more intense. But anyway, so I think one of the fewer videos earlier, behind me, right? The fewer videos earlier, I discussed kind of like the ups and downs of life. Maybe. I completely forgot, but I remember having this conversation in general. So look at my notes. Huh. No, I didn't. So let's start with this one and basically what led me to this actual note. So each one of these is practically not the best of days. All right. But the beauty of it is because I'm fully aware, like, something is off, then I get to kind of like just go towards it and like speak with it a bit and like try to kind of like sort it out in a way. Uh, there's an off feeling towards it. I'm not gonna lie. There's an off feeling that and I've been saying this for a while. Like feelings aren't real. They're literally our response to stuff. To stuff. So we kind of like create a certain thing, and that instills in us a certain feeling. But like, it's not about being positive. It's just about like adjusting your view towards something in a way that you are more comfortable. That's basically it. Ouch, I hurt my leg. It sucks. But maybe you shouldn't have the table in this position. Maybe you should notice better. Like that kind of stuff. Like just taking it differently, maybe as well. I don't know. But, anyways, it's an off day, and I write an off day after like basically coming to Beirut. Like the past few weeks, it's becoming. I was like I was feeling more restrained because of the house and because of the condition of the house, and even at work, I was feeling a lot more loose. And I attribute a lot to the fact that I had a lot undone. Like I had a lot of open loops, and I kind of like got rid of all of them. And that kind of created like an emptiness where I kind of like wanted to absorb something. So I kind of like entangled the reality that exists around me to mine because my reality was like yearning for something different. And the best way to think about it is like the purpose of a cup is to have water. Hey, another Bruce Lee reference. The purpose of the cup is to have water. And if I think about it this way, like, if a cup had feelings or if a cup wanted something so bad, it would be to be filled. So ultimately, every once in a while, and especially since doing these YouTube videos and the fact that I write and I like discuss things like out loud with people, it has been gradually moving from people don't want to discuss these things with me for me writing them down to me going like, let's start a YouTube account and let's actually like, start posting this stuff in the hopes of creating some form of community, right? Like the goal is for me to be able to express myself to myself first, because like anytime I'm talking, I'm assuming the person in front of me or whoever's going to watch the video is going to want to listen, or at the very least understand if they're listening, right? Like a lot of people would just press skip or something like this, which is perfectly fine. But the goal is to be able to like express things in a different way. But it was amazing because like here is where I discuss emptiness, and I go like the thought that came to my head is how I have been actively trying to pull all of my thoughts out, but my planning was still the planning before I was pouring all my thoughts out. So I was still planning my days in accordance to when I wasn't doing this, to when I was not saying all this stuff out loud and pouring it out. I was like kind of at that, I think like a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, all I would do was like write on a piece of paper some stuff. So that happened, let's say, if even if it happened once a day, it's not the same as flushing out three, four videos at once and feeling my head go emptiness, blank. It's perfect, by the way, to fall asleep because you get to actually consider, you get to like let go of a lot of things and rationalize them out loud. And so when I sleep beautifully on those days. The problem is when I wake up the next morning, my head is kind of like wanting to welcome new things. And if I don't provide new things, it will just start grasping onto the things around it. Just funny because that's why I started feeling more comfortable. And that's where your confidence comes and you start walking differently, talking differently, and all these things. But the issue is that as you kind of like start losing track of like the reason why you're doing what you're doing. So ultimately you grab onto things that are not necessarily the best for you. So when you pour them out, all you're doing is finding balance again instead of like reaching a different like level and like adjusting and then reaching a higher level and adjusting again. Just basically a chart. If you look at the stock market or like any form of chart you ever looked at, it's always like there's an up, there's a push up, and then there's like a slowly like retraction for everything to balance itself out, and there's another push up, and then the based on the growth, the sustenance, based on the actual value that is driving this stuff. So that's basically what I started writing about. And over the past couple of weeks, I've been feeling a bit kind of like an oosh, like I finished a whole lot of things that I was like in the process of doing, but my labeling of what I need to do were reduced to one. And I feel like that kind of overwhelmed me simply because the day felt very empty to me. And so what I did naturally was I started reading more and I went back into research mode because I'm still planning things the same way I did back then. I haven't altered the way I would plan things or I haven't reflected on it in a way where I would adjust, hey man, okay, so now that you're able to release a lot more from your mind to explain a lot more and create more, you have to find a way that keeps up with this, or else you're just going to be like blabbing random nonsense most of the time. Because how many times am I going to repeat myself before I notice that there's nothing new that's entering that I'm actually interested in talking about? So I started off with noticing that my days are not necessarily feeling the way I'm supposed to, and I have this, and the stronger feeling behind that is basically a self-actualization. Like the reality actually starts, the reality around you or the environment around you reveals itself much better when you're basically exposing yourself to it. And back then I was more focused, so I was just like doing things and kind of minding my own business, not really interacting with the environment the way like, and when I say environment, I don't mean trees and birds. Like I love that part of my day where I just like chill and look at the sky. Or where I work right now, man, there are like families of rats that kind of like travel at night on the grass, and it's just beautiful seeing them hopping and finding like the cockroaches to eat them and all that good stuff. It's a bit nasty, but like life is life, man. It's just any shape or form it takes is fucking beautiful. But when I meant environment, I meant like every other person's reality around me, the cars, the guy that sells me my water next to, we call it a candy, the small store, the local coffee shop, the tea shop. So I started feeling more involved in this, which is cute, but also like at work, I started feeling more involved with the people that are randomly working around me. And I remember it's a co-working space. And most of them are not really very productive and can only be productive once you're focusing on what you're doing. If you're just like spending more time talking to people and discussing with people around you, chatting, and it's not like, I don't know, can you always sustain something like intense for you to kind of like develop your mind or something like this? I really feel like a lot of people like have these mistakes and kind of like don't necessarily reflect on their time in a healthy way where they look at what time are they actually spending efficiently working, what time are they spending actually just releasing the tension from work. I'm going to use releasing the tension because that's basically office gossip. And anyways, so I started finding myself more getting involved in these, and I didn't like it. And you can't control this stuff because the minute you're controlling it from the same point that allowed it to happen, so you're basically just being aggressive, and aggressivity never happens anywhere. And it's fucked up because even when you're comfortable, you're aggressively comfortable, so you're aggressively yourself. because you want to be yourself and you're comfortable and fuck this shit. But that work environment was the reason why I was able to reach this point. And right now it's looking a bit different to me. And so basically, I started debating the whole cup philosophy, the Japanese term ma. It's funny because the whole, like, their philosophy, sorry, ma. The ma philosophy is based on uh, it's a gate and the sun inside, I think, or emptiness. I completely forgot, but it literally is the philosophy of emptiness. And it's like you don't really use anything about the cup other than the empty space in it. So the vast emptiness, which is like a video that I wanted to write about as well, but like I don't want to write about these philosophies right now until after the 100th video. I don't know why. I just like kind of like instinctively, I'm like just talk about different things. But so like when I started reflecting back on how my mind kind of like when I'm talking to you right now, I'm like realizing something as I'm trying to explain it to you because I realized that at one point, and I'm explaining what I realized, which is kind of like taking a whole bunch of stuff and like bringing them down into a smaller understanding that I can go back to. So it becomes a bit more fundamental. And when that happens, all the clutter kind of like escapes. And when I notice myself in such a state, the clutter state, I tend to kind of like write down and try to like it always starts with like something random. Like yesterday's one was an off day after like hash, and today's one is gratitude for people's attitude. And I tend to get these after like it's funny because like after a walk I get these ideas, but normally I do my walk in the morning and then I go finish my routine. So I don't really get to like reflect this way. So maybe I should start doing this on a daily basis after my walk, or at the very least every couple of days when I get like a decent idea, I like come after my walk and I instantly just sit and write it. But then you have to set up an environment for that. And normally after my walk, I like try to go directly to work. But anyways, an off day leads to the philosophy and basically certain gratitude. And at the end of it, I was like, don't be too hard on yourself in any way. Uh, it is beautiful. This is beautiful because in leveling up, you're doing great. So I'm smiling because like I don't hear this stuff often, man. I yeah, I don't. So if anything, the people that kind of like are interested in the way I am are just interested in the way I am, not because they understand me, but just because they look and they see how kind of like they wouldn't do that. So it's impressive that somebody is. But I ended the day with like the whole concept of leveling up and go back to like the reflection, which probably triggered my day to move as it is. But today wasn't as good. Stay tuned for the next part. Thank you.